In this lesson, we'll be crushing the buildings with the pizza using 3D layers. Okay, so what we need to do is first grab all of the layers behind the pizza. So I'm going to lock that pizza again and come up here and grab those layers because this is what we want to be rotating. And you can see that earlier I had dragged those pieces that are behind the pizza to the top of my stacking order. And just so I can have a little bit more of a differentiation between which ones are going to fall forward and which ones we're going to leave on the sides, I'm going to change their layer color. So you can just come over here to that little thumbnail, left click, and let's choose fuchsia, obviously. So now that we have those changed, it's a lot easier to see which ones are which on our timeline. Now all of these I'm going to change to 3D layers. So let's just go ahead and turn on the 3D switch. And while we're at it, let's turn on our motion blur switch. And I'm also going to turn on my continuously rasterized switch, which we should also turn on for the rest of our buildings as well. Simply because those are going to need to stay nice and crisp when we're zoomed in at 100%. Okay, great. So now basically what we have is our pizza animation, but the buildings don't move. So let's decide, where do we want the buildings to get crushed? And I'm thinking just because these buildings are so tall doesn't mean that maybe the pizza might have not crushed those pieces, but we get the biggest movement in the pizza from here to here. So I think this is also the place where a lot of those buildings reach the height of the pizza. So I think this is the best frame to start that on. So what we can do is select all of the pink layers. And let's bring up their rotation properties by hitting the R key. And we're going to be rotating them on this axis right here. So if we come in on that X axis, that's what's going to make them look like they rotate down onto the ground. So you can see the X rotation. So what we need to do, I'll undo that, is set our first key with the rotation up like this. So I'll go ahead and set that. And then I'm going to go forward 2 frames. And that is where we'll let this rotate all the way down. So I'm going to kind of pull this up a little bit so I can see better. And let's start to rotate these down. Now, you don't have to rotate them to a perfect 90 degrees just because that's what it seems like the ground should be. Make it look like what you really want the ground to look like. So maybe you want it rotated down a little bit further like this. Okay, that looks great. So now they've been crushed, but they all are kind of looking very much the same, and that they all just go forward. So I think what we could do is maybe have them fan out a little bit, and that's going to be on the Z rotation, you see. So what I want to do is actually just turn off the pizza for a second, and we'll go ahead and set our keys for all of the pink layers on their current Z rotation. So we'll select all of those again just by shift selecting, set a key for that Z rotation, and then we'll go to the same frame where they're all rotated down, and then let's individually decide how each one should be rotated to look the best. So I'll start with this first one here, and let's say that it's going to kind of go a little bit out to the left. This one's going to go a little more out to the left, maybe like this. So I'm kind of just, you can see, fanning these out. And that one's pretty much in the middle, so I'm not going to change it very much. And you can just really quickly kind of go down through here and decide what's going to make this look the best. And it's a lot easier to do without having the pizza in your way. And you can see how it really just starts to make the whole thing look a lot fuller when these have been rotated into the different degrees, instead of just having them all fall forward flatly. It's also helpful having that anchor point right in the middle at the bottom, because it rotates from exactly where you would expect it to when you're wanting to create something like this. And that one looks awesome going that far out. Okay, so now you can see that looks so much better. It really feels like they are falling. Okay, so now let's come back up here and turn our pizza back on. And really the only one that I want to move is this one. Just kind of pull it back, tuck it up underneath there. And this one I think as well. And we can also come in there and maybe rotate that one a little bit more to the right. Now that it's back a little bit further. And it is going to change a little bit what this looks like at the beginning. But I really think that that's going to be okay. Great. So now basically we have this really cool animation. We can watch it all the way through just by doing a quick little RAM preview. But what we probably will want to do also is give those buildings a little bit of bounce after they fall, because unlike our pizza, they're just kind of hitting flatly and the pizza continues to bounce. So I think it would be really interesting if those buildings had a little bit of clatter as well. And I think that if you aren't happy with maybe some of them going all the way off of your shot, maybe like this one, they don't have to be that tall. You could come in and make that one a little bit shorter, maybe like this. Maybe this one is actually the one that's more tall, or this one right here. So you can come in and really start to play around with the way that they look on the ground, and then just see if you still like the way it looks when you're up here. And I think this actually looks a lot more interesting up here with this one actually being longer. So I get less of a sense that this is a duplicate of this, because you don't really have that much time to notice that before it gets crushed. Okay, so let's come back in our next lesson and we're going to add some bounce to these buildings as the pizza falls on them to really help carry out that follow through of having them clatter to the ground.